Brazil. Do folks remember Brazil? Remember in 2016 when Dilma Rousseff from the Workers' Party was forced out of office. She was impeached. She was the leader who had come to replace and succeed Lula da Silva from the Workers' Party. And there was all this talk about how socialism. In 2016, we were told that socialism, which had ruined Brazil, we were told, was over. Serious sanctions? Sure. Socialism had ruined Brazil. Michel Temer, who I've met, I was in Brazil. I gave a presentation in Brazil in February of 2016, just before Dilma was forced out of office. I spoke at a conference. I gave a 2-hour presentation to a group of trade union activists in Brazil. I had the honor of meeting who was then the vice president of Brazil, Michel Temer. He then became the president shortly after I left the country, which was surprising. So Michel Temer took office and began implementing neoliberal free market reforms in Brazil, wrecking the place, just wrecking the place economically. He had a horrendously low approval rating. The economy was getting worse. So there was an election that took place, and polls showed overwhelmingly that the population wanted Lula da Silva to be the new president. He had been the president before, and he had done a very good job. Dilma, things had not been going so well, so people wanted Lula da Silva back. So Lula da Silva was prevented from running by being charged with corruption and sent to jail. And they prevented him from running for president, even though polls showed that he would have won. So, of course, he didn't win. He was in jail. So Bolsonaro, the right-wing demagogue, the neocon, the advocate of free market neoliberal economics, the big supporter of Israel, the big friend of Donald Trump, he's known for nasty comments just like Trump, and not a nice fellow, tied to right-wing militias and such that assassinate leftists. Bolsonaro got elected. And things in Brazil have continued to get worse. The neoliberal free market reforms of Brazil have continued to make things worse. Things have gotten even worse. So after the fall of Dilma Rousseff, the neoliberal reforms came, things got worse. After the election of Bolsonaro, things got worse. We now know that the trial of Lula da Silva was a frame-up. It was revealed that the prosecutor and the judge were frequently texting each other and in cahoots collaborating throughout the trial. That was revealed. Lula da Silva has been released from prison. And after getting out of prison, he's become far, far more radical. He sounds more like a communist now. He's a big admirer of North Korea and such, and he's become very, very radical since getting out of jail. Bolsonaro continues to run Brazil into the ground. He took office on this platform that socialists are bad, socialists bring corruption, everything will be good if we bring free markets. Where is the free market miracle? Right? I PragerU has a video, how socialism ruined Brazil. Well, you've had capitalism in Brazil for 5 years now. You've had a radical free market regime, and it has only made things worse. So this is the latest episode in the continuing failure of capitalism in Brazil. The promise that all of Brazil's problems were due to socialism, were due to, the social democratic policies of Lula da Silva. They never had a change in property relations. It was more of a welfare capitalist state, but they never had a change in property relations. The Workers' Party under Lula da Silva was still very much presiding over capitalism. The question is, where is the free market miracle that was promised? Everyone's looking at the situation in Brazil, and it's with scandal after scandal, impoverishment after impoverishment, suffering after suffering. Thank you. There we go. I mean, look at Brazil. If free markets are supposed to bring prosperity, if Western capitalism is the answer, if neoliberalism and privatizations is the answer, look at Brazil. Look at Brazil. Just saying. We saw that the CIA worked with the Brazilian government to keep Lula da Silva from running. They kept him in jail. They falsely imprisoned a former president to keep him from running. Why? Brazil, ever since they ousted the Social Democrats, the Workers' Party, and they put in neoliberal free market reforms, it's been a mess. It's been a mess ever since then. That doesn't fit the free market narrative that we're supposed to have. It should be that it should be a paradise now. That never happens. Neoliberalism and free market economics wrecks countries. It leads to massive poverty. Neoliberal economics is premised on the assumption that you can cut your way into economic growth. You cannot cut your way into economic growth. That does not happen. If you have 3 apples and you take 1 apple away, the result is 2 apples, and 2 apples is less than 3 apples. When you cut the jobs of government workers, when you eliminate social welfare programs, the result is everyone has less money and the economy gets worse. There's this magical belief that if rich people pay less taxes, somehow they'll then spend all that money and that'll lead to growth. And it doesn't happen. It does not happen for the simple reason that rich people invest their money, right? If people are millionaires and billionaires, they tend to spend whatever money they feel like spending, and they do that no matter what. But with their huge, massive sums of wealth, they invest it to make more money. And if the economy is bad and they're not going to get a return on their investment, they don't invest it. That's how these things work. So this notion that you can cut your way into economic growth is malarkey. It's absolute malarkey, and it has never worked anywhere in the world. Not in Chile, not all throughout South America during the 1990s. You cannot cut your way into economic growth. Brazil is the latest example of that. And nobody, I mean, it's amazing. All these people who cry conspiracy theory, it is now proven that a sham trial was set up to prevent Lula da Silva from taking office. That the United States government and the Brazilian government and the right wing in Brazil collaborated to lock up a former president of Brazil, to put him in jail. They staged a trial. And it resulted in Bolsonaro, widely hated individual, hated by a lot more people than the far left, hated by many liberals and many progressives, many people around the world hate Bolsonaro, that there was an effort to prop up and install Bolsonaro to prevent Lula da Silva from becoming president of Brazil. This is a fact, folks. This is documented. This is not disputed, okay? This is public record. The courts in Brazil have admitted that this happened. They released Lula from jail. We have the texts from the prosecutor in Brazil. They framed Lula da Silva for corruption. They gave him a kangaroo court sham trial. They locked him in jail, and they collaborated with the United States in order to do it, to prevent Bolsonaro from being defeated and to install Bolsonaro. That is a fact. These are well-documented realities. But, conspiracy theory. I mean, this is documented. This is fact. And it has led, furthermore, to economic catastrophe in Brazil. Neoliberal economics has led to scandal after scandal, impoverishment. They've handled the pandemic horrendously. If you want to see the results of free market neoliberalism, if you want to see the results of Western capitalist regime change operations, take a look at Brazil. Take a look at Brazil. Take a look at Brazil. Right? This is the result of U.S. foreign meddling. Even Le Pen has said she is disgusted by Bolsonaro. And there you go. I mean, he's a disgusting figure. So the next time they're telling you, oh, the USA needs to intervene, we need to bring free markets, they're the answer. Look at Brazil. Just look at Brazil. I've spent way too much time on this. So we're going to move on to our next item.